Now I'm honored to introduce and turn the conversation over to Nancy Wilson. Nancy is the founder, CEO, and chief rabble-rouser here at CanWCC. And in addition, Nancy is a chartered professional accountant with more than a decade of accounting experience in various corporate roles. She also owned and operated an accounting business at an advisory firm serving women business owners and entrepreneurs. So Nancy launched CanWCC in January 2018 out of frustration regarding the barriers, lack of resources, and difficulty finding connections she experienced as a business owner, and has been working ever since to create a powerful network of women through which to drive change and create equality in Canadian business. Nancy is a driven and accomplished feminist leader, passionate about financial literacy, challenging the status quo, and advocating for economic equity. And if I may add myself, she is also a great boss. Go ahead, Nancy.
Thank you, Lise. So thank you so much to everyone for joining us today. I know that time is precious and you could be enjoying an early weekend, but instead you are hanging out with CanWCC. So thank you so much, whether you are in Toronto, Winnipeg, Calgary, or hanging with us online. I really appreciate your time and energy and enthusiasm. So as Lee said, we launched CanWCC in January of 2018, which means we are in year 8, which is bananas. And anyone who knows me and has been along for the ride, which I have to say, Paula Fletcher, who is in Toronto in real life today, has been a part of this journey since the very beginning. She set up our very first social media channels back in 2018, probably back in November 2017. So she's an OG CanWCC. So she knows best that I have not always been a big fan of International Women's Day. Partly because it always just like creeps up on me, and then I'm like, oh no, it's March, International Women's Day. We're like a women's organization. We should probably do something. And then all the corporates sweep in, and there's all sorts of fancy schmancy events. But this year, I have this wonderful team who actually, plans things in advance. And in particular, our wonderful Lise and Karine, who is live in Winnipeg, have planned this wonderful event. And not only is it well planned and brings our community together, but it is our first in-person event, uh, technically since the pandemic. So that is something that we're really celebrating. So, what am I going to present to you today? So I'm going to talk a little bit about CanWCC. If you're a member, then you probably will know some of this stuff, but I'm hoping to convert some potential members out there. And maybe if you are a member, I'm hoping that it will, just make you even more happy with your decision to be a member and maybe influence you and persuade you to spread the word. Power in numbers, and all of our advocacy is really fueled by not only the passion of our members, but unfortunately, the number of our members does make a difference when we're talking to people in government. They want to see how many people are you representing. Um, so, so we'll talk a little bit about CanWCC, and then what I really want to talk about also is our trio of policy recommendations specifically built around creating a framework for self-employed individuals in Canada. So at the end of January, we put out a media release declaring that our next 3 years, that our strategy would be built around providing specific supports and policy recommendations for self-employed women, meaning solo self-employed, you folks that are out there doing your thing without employees under you. And because we know that 80% of women who earn business or professional income in Canada fall into that solo self-employed category. You're out there doing it. Hopefully not alone, but definitely you're rolling solo. So let's share my screen and get started. Okay. So who are we? Who is CanWCC? So we are a national membership-based organization, and is that sort of differentiates us, right? There's lots of women's organizations out there. They do good work. Not a lot of them are actually membership-based. And what's important about being a membership-based organization is our members have voting rights. So at the upcoming AGM, which is going to be in May, our paid members are going to be able to vote on who our board is, and they'll have some insight into what's going on in the organization. And as we move forward, just as we have over the last 8 years, that feedback back and forth from our members to our board, to our senior management, building out this organization is really co-created alongside our members, as it should be. The organization exists to speak on behalf of our members, to translate and bring the voice of our members to those in power. And so our members should be involved in co-creating the organization itself. The good news is over the last 8 years, we've built up quite a good membership base. We have members across all provinces and territories, and we represent then a singular national voice that we can bring to policymakers. Who do we serve? So, as I've said, we primarily serve women and gender diverse people who are self-employed. Why? Because that's who our members are. And why? Because that's who women in Canada are. When it comes to the majority of women who earn business or professional income in Canada, they are self-employed. So it stands to reason that that pattern exists within our membership, and we represent our membership. We do represent women and gender diverse small business owners. That would be the 20% of women who own small businesses. We're happy to represent their needs as well. How we do that most effectively is by partnering and referring folks to services and other organizations that focus in on women who own small businesses. And there are a lot of those groups that we have very close relationships with, and we are happy to have those relationships and to refer our members to what they need. We're going to focus on self-employed. They're going to focus on women entrepreneurs or small business owners, and that way there's going to be less duplication of efforts in the so-called ecosystem, and less competition. So we can really, when we say collaboration over competition, we really mean what we're saying. And so what we want to do is make sure that at any stage of business, we have something to offer, whether it's referral or whether it's in-house programming. And what we do, what our value proposition is simple. So our core values are community, connection, and change, and that's exactly what we offer our members. Community, connection to resources, and change through policy advocacy. So community through membership. We spend a lot of time and energy and staff power making sure that our membership feels like they belong, um, feels like they are that they can draw strength from their peer group, that the events and interactions that they have in the circle, which is our community platform, are different and unique and feel different and unique and valuable. And we want our community to be something that stands out, something that attracts engagement. And so that is a primary consideration for us. And we understand that there is a lot of competition out there for people's energy, time, engagement. And so we take your feedback very seriously. And if something isn't working, we are happy to make changes to make it more engaging, or we're happy to throw things out if they're just not working, because we're not here to waste anybody's time, right? But we also understand that, self-employment or small business ownership is pretty lonely. I know for myself, running this organization, it's tough sometimes. Sometimes you don't get the level of support that you want, because it's hard to it's hard for other people to put themselves in your shoes. So when I talk to other women who are doing the same thing, it's like a breath of fresh air. Right. Connection to resources and tools. So this is the second value that we put into action. So we want to connect our members to resources and tools that are out there, so they don't have to spend all of their time digging around finding them for themselves. And again, we want the resources and tools that we provide to be useful, to be up to date and accurate, and to be something that everyone else isn't throwing at you. One of the tools that we do offer, or one of the resources rather, is our strategic partnerships. So I want to recognize today our partnerships with the 3 co-working spaces in Toronto, Winnipeg, and Calgary. And connecting with organizations like these co-working spaces is one of the resources that we provide connection to for our members. And so having the ability to build these strategic partnerships with other organizations is what I was talking about earlier in terms of referral to other services. But it's also ways for us to get together in your local area, and for us to tell you about what's available in your local area. So we're trying to move beyond virtual, but also maintain accessibility for everyone by having things available virtually, while complementing that with local services and local businesses that can provide you additional support. So I do want to give a shout out to the folks at the co-working spaces that are supporting us today. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And I hope that you're enjoying yourself at the event too. And finally, change. So change through policy advocacy. This is the core of what we do. We advocate on behalf of women and gender diverse individuals who are self-employed. And that's why we're a chamber of commerce. Like that chamber of commerce label gets us indoors, gets us meetings with government, gets us invited to consultations. And it's working for us. It's worked for us from the beginning, and it's working for us now. In January and February, I was invited to speak to the Bank of Canada about they were reviewing their framework for monetary policy, and they wanted to hear from the Canadian Women's Foundation and from us. Um, the Competition Bureau or Competition Board, I think Competition Bureau, something like that. They were looking at financing. They were doing a market study on financing for women business owners. They wanted us to consult on that. That's the type of thing we do. So let's move on to the three policy recommendations that we are working on. And by working on, I mean, these are the policy recommendations we have. And over the next couple of years, we are going hard to the net to put these out there and to make something happen. Number one, universal parental income. So right now, as I'm sure many of you know, in order to get maternity leave and pay, you have to be an employee within a traditional employee-employer relationship. Maternity leave and income is organized under EI legislation, employment insurance, or what used to be called unemployment insurance. And many people are left out of that. Even many people who are in an employee relationship and pay into EI do not get maternity leave pay because of this technicality, or they don't have enough hours, or all this. Certainly, self-employed individuals are not have to sign up for a special benefit program, and there are all sorts of hoops to jump through. So what we're putting forward is no, that doesn't make any sense. Okay, your employment class or the type of employment or work that you do shouldn't influence whether you deserve to have income support for the postnatal period. There's just no logic to that. So what we're proposing is universal parental income under a program that is completely separate from EI and is built from scratch. So we want to see that income support be calculated based on what parents actually need to cover their expenses when they have a new child. And if someone has multiple births, maybe they should get more money because right now they don't. When you have two new mouths to feed, sorry, you're just gonna have to, I guess, split the food up, split up those rations. That just, again, it's illogical. And finally, what this really means is a philosophical change. We can no longer allow for care work for caring for children be seen as analogous to being unemployed, okay? Because that philosophical conclusion that is baked into this system has real impact. For example, maternity income support that is paid out when you take maternity leave is not considered earned income for RRSP purposes. And why is that? Because unemployment benefits are not considered earned income for RSP benefits. So, quite honestly, probably whoever wrote that legislation about determining what was earned income for RSP just didn't even really think about the implications of striking off EI related benefits from the earned income category. But what it means is that when you receive income for taking care of your newborn, that does that isn't considered earned income, and you're restricted in terms of what you can actually save towards your retirement under a really important tax sheltered scheme that Canada is extremely proud of, the RRSP. I grew up being told that's like, you know, build an RSP. That's like the most important thing you can do for your retirement. So, anyways, I think the philosophical change is important. We can never really build a true care economy with legitimate value tied to it unless we can make these types of changes. So I'm really passionate about that, obviously. Number two, a lower tax rate for sole proprietors. So right now, if you're a sole proprietor, you claim your revenue and expenses on your personal tax return, and the net income then is taxes is applied to it based on your personal tax rate. So personal tax rates range from about 14% to 33%. And 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 if you're employed, if you have employment income, you get a T4. And your taxes, although they've been withdrawn from your paycheck by your employer throughout the year, but your tax on your employment income is calculated using that same those same rates, personal income rates. So my question is, um, why should sole proprietors be subject to the same tax rate as someone who's earning their income as an employee? Because employees have a bunch of social safety net provisions that self-employed sole proprietors do not have. So our recommendation is that there be a lower dedicated tax rate for sole proprietors. And this would be kind of an in-between rate between the personal tax rate and the much, much lower corporate tax rate. So if you incorporate, your corporate tax rate is at the federal level is 9%. But there's more organization that has to go on. You have to pay for this more complicated tax return. So there are reasons not to incorporate if your business is small and straightforward. But the real drawback there is, the lowest tax rate you can have is 14%. So our ask is a lower tax rate for sole proprietor net income. That will allow folks to reinvest in their business the same way that corporations reinvest net income after tax in their business. And it also means that there's some recognition of the risk involved in being self-employed. The third priority on the policy side is a higher income threshold for HST registration. So right now, you are required to register as an HST or GST registrant once you have reached $30,000 in revenue, in taxable revenue over 4 quarters. That's accumulated. So essentially, as soon as you have made $30,000 in taxable income, you have to start collecting GST or HST on behalf of the government, keeping it, safe for some period of time, not spending it, even though you may be completely broke. And then you have to prepare a return, and then remit that money to the government. So you become a tax collector, working for the government. And many people are, it's not an easy system. The rules around what is taxable, what is not, are super complicated. I'm an accountant. I have to look things up all the time. I have to read through the rules to figure things out. And so having this really low threshold opens up self-employed people, opens up everyone to administrative burdens, as well as exposure to audit risk, even when they make a very low amount of money. So the other thing is that this $30,000 amount has been put in place and has remained the same since GST started in 1991. So even if we just applied inflation, it would be about 60,000, but it's still 30. So, I mean, can we just be logical about some of these things, please? Like, let's just put on our thinking cap for a minute. So what CanWCC is asking is let's put this amount up way, like quite a bit up. So our proposal is, instead of going for an accumulated amount, let's look at an average amount per quarter that's consistent over 4 quarters. So we're saying we want an average of $50,000 earned of taxable income per quarter, consistently over 4 quarters. Then, okay, then you got to start collecting HST. Then you're in a position to be an HST registrant. That means you have some stability in your income earning. You have a sufficient amount of income rolling in that you can hire professional help to cover your administrative burden, to explain what the heck is going on, to do these HST returns for you, to limit your audit risk. And it gives you a lot of room to grow so that you can decide, like, am I going to do this as, a full-time thing for the next 5 or 10 years? And really decide if this is something that you're going to undertake. We think that people get wrapped up in owing GST who maybe never really intended to start a business at all and just, ended up selling some things on eBay and made a bit of money. And that's not what this was set up to capture. So, so that is our third policy priority. Universal parental income, a lower tax rate for sole proprietors, and a higher threshold for HST registration. Those are our three big policy points. We're going to go at it and put them out there. I've already written a piece about the universal parental income that was published late last week on rabble.ca. And we're going to start, talking to government and other allies who are interested in this sort of thing to start pushing these ideas out into the public discourse, and hopefully at least initiating a good debate, because I do love a good debate. So for those of you who are not yet members, I invite you to become a member. It's very easy to become a member. If you go to canwcc.ca/join, you can become a member. If you use the discount code networking, you can get, I think, 25% off your first year membership. If you are a member, we love you. We thank you. And we ask you to spread the word. If you know someone who you think would enjoy being a member or benefit from being a member, tell them about it. And for those of you who don't own a business, are not self-employed, but think this all sounds really cool, you can join as a community member for free. Our community membership is for anyone of any gender that just digs what we're doing and wants to be a part of it. All right. Any questions?
Hi, Nancy.
Hi.
I have a question for you that I
Great.
thought everybody, yeah, just while we're all here together, do you think it might make sense to talk a moment about governance and that we have some open positions coming up in the AGM?
Sure, sure. So, so I believe we have two uh, board seats that are vacant. At the very least, we have one board seat. Off the top of my head, I know we have one board seat that's vacant. We have our annual general meeting coming up in May. I believe it's the 28th, but it'll certainly be posted on the circle. And as I said, paid members are voting members, and community members are have a representative on the board as well. So it's very participatory. If you do want to be involved and throw your hat into the ring to become a director on the board, probably the best way to do that at this point, if you just email hello@canwcc.ca, someone can point you in the right direction. And we'd love to have you become an even bigger part of the process.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Wendat.
Hello,
Okay.
hi everyone. So thank you so much for your presentation. I was really interested in this AI and kind of payment when during maternity leave and all this kind of what exactly is done in this direction. Are you in communication with government, with AI, or what exactly is being doing it? What is the response from the government about this?
So we've just started putting it out there at this time. So we haven't received a direct response from government. The first step is we've registered with the lobbying registry that we are going to begin to lobby for this issue, putting out the article in rabble.ca was kind of our first public presentation of the idea, although we have sort of talked about the idea with members. And the next step is to start talking to the right people within the federal government. We have a policy paper that has been written up, research by Deirdre Cleveland, who is our research analyst. So if you go to our advocacy page, you can download that paper to take a look at it. So it's canwcc.ca/advocacy. So that policy paper is the type of thing that we would probably just tweak a little bit into a proper policy brief that we would then send to the relevant people in the different ministries, possibly even try to get meetings with specific committees, and then try to push it forward so that it's something that people at the federal level are talking about. because EI is a federal piece of legislation, it's somewhat easier to actually start talking about changes to EI, because a lot of employment legislation is actually organized provincially, but EI is federal. So not that it makes it easier to change, but it is, one kind of group to talk to. So yeah, that's the plan.
Nancy, I had Judy here offering to say something about sort of government response.
Great.
Yeah, closer to you.
Yeah, go for it.
How do I do that?
I just talk.
Okay, so the thing I wanted to say, it sort of feels weird to talk this way when the people are this way, so I can't do that. Sorry. It's just not, I'm a speaker. I can't speak with my back to people. Okay, so what I wanted to explain, because I've been working as a strategic advisor with CanWCC now, for 3 years, Nancy? And yeah, and we started by trying to create a coalition on with unions on self-employment, and this was our central policy argument. But unions are very tied into EI, right? And they've been like working for years to try and get reforms to improve EI, and the government just completely refuses to do anything. So we decided to do this on our own, independently. And I think it's critical, and we're in a moment where we can really, because it's basically the whole economy is created based on the realities of the 1940s and the 1950s, right? And there weren't self-employed people. Everybody had industrial jobs, that kind of thing, right? And the social services have not changed to reflect the changes. So now we have gig workers, we have self-employed workers, we have small business people, none of whom are served by our social safety net, right? Except for healthcare. And so we're trying to do something really big here, okay? That's why we need to get bigger, which is to change the way people think about the economy so that more people are served by our social programs. So I just wanted to put that context.
Thank you, Judy.
Yeah. And when you look at the breakdown of self-employed folks, just recently did some number crunching with another advisor who works with us. 41% of all self-employed women work in the care economy. 41% of them. And that's not going to go down. If anything, it's going to go up as people in our larger population age. The care economy is going to get larger and larger and larger, and a lot of that is going to be driven by women who are self-employed, as well as women who are doing care work in their community and in their family without being paid. So we need to find ways to build recognition of that work and policies that provide infrastructure for that work before things completely, I don't want to be too cynical, but before things really start to collapse, before, right now the focus is on, AI. And really it's like, we can't keep talking about increases in productivity when, when you look, over 50% of self-employed women work in service. Maybe 60%, I'm looking at the numbers, of self-employed women work in the service industry. There are only 24 hours in a day. You can only work so much. You can only sell so much of your time, of your energy, of your person. And when they're talking about the influence of AI and increasing productivity, if that is what we value, then where are is our work valued? How are we going to fit into that framework? And so if that's the way they want to go, okay, then we need to start talking about universal basic income. And if they're not going to entertain that, then we need to start talking about something that isn't some kind of value system that isn't based on GDP and isn't based on this productivity fantasy where productivity can just always go up and up and up and up and up without ever having a cap on it. So, anyways, I could talk about this all day long. You guys deserve to hang around and chat with each other. But thank you so much for your energy and your attention.
Thank you so much, Nancy. It's always great to hear you speak. And I know that it always fires me up. I hope it fired all of you up.